Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
I mean, are you ready?
Sorry.
That was good. This is how it start. We're starting like this. This is the beginning of the show. Hello, everyone.
I've been working on that all day.
We're back. Cranked and Ranked is back, and we've got a big two-parter here, and it's going to be a lot of fucking fun. If you're new to the show, Cranked and Ranked is a podcast and YouTube show where we rank band discographies from what we think is the least good to the most good. It's a very long discussion, and the discussion is more important than the ranking, really. And we go off on a lot of tangents, and I'm sure we will because we haven't seen each other in a few weeks.
Yeah.
We had to take a couple weeks off. For several reasons, but one of them was that Eddie went to the Download Festival.
Yes.
And got to see Metallica, among other bands.
Twice.
Well, yeah, twice. Yeah, and it was two different set lists like they're doing, right?
Completely different. It was incredible. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any other highlights from that, that you enjoyed?
I was fucking blown away by Ginger. Ginger were really
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more of a modern metal band, but
Yeah.
the front woman, her name is she's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
the band are great too. The stage presence from them, they just absolutely brought it.
Yeah.
The first day was the main day for me. The rest of the days are kind of like picked and chose.
Did you see Carcass?
I sadly was only able to catch Carcass from afar, but I did hear their set.
Okay.
And they were great. Stuff happened during the day that eventually led to me realizing, fuck, I've left it a little late. If I stay here, I'll hear them. But if I walk to the arena now, I'll catch maybe the last song. So I was like, thankfully, I was in the eco campsite, so I was like within hearing range.
Okay.
So at that point, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna crack a beer. I know the songs. I'm just gonna listen to them fucking bring it.
I'm pretty sure that because I've never gone to a festival because I don't like being out in the sun, as you can tell. For those of you who are watching on the video, I apologize that you have to see my arms. But not only.
I think it's a refreshing change.
Not only is it 100 degrees outside, our air conditioning is a little bit wonky right now. So it's
time of year to go.
Yeah,
tits up.
and we probably won't get it fixed until like Tuesday. But it works. It's just there's something that needs to be replaced, so it's very weak. So during the day, it just starts to get warmer and warmer, and then finally at night it cools down. But so this is comfort right here. I do not like showing my arms to anybody. And it's funny, on the video, Eddie, the Brit, has a very nice tan, and I look like I'm standing in line to see The Cure.
Yeah. Look at that. I wore sleeveless shirts.
Yeah.
The entire time, and you can tell. Look at that shit.
But I'm starting to get more comfortable with this because, like, I've very recently seen a lot of bands, especially in the death metal side of things, where there's like chubbier dudes and they're all just wearing cut off shirts and they don't give a shit. And I was like, well, if they're fine, I'm fine too. Then I guess.
Absolutely.
But I also feel like today, since we're doing Korn, a black tank top is a very Jonathan Davis thing, and
it is. Yeah.
And I'm wearing Adidas sandals. So, I feel like I have an Adidas tracksuit also.
Nice.
It is just not the weather for it right now. I want to find one of those ones. It's like the purple that like he wears sometimes. I would so love that. Yeah. Anyway,
didn't they switch over to Puma in like
Oh, did
98 or something. Because like apparently, did you ever hear about that? Like apparently Puma paid them an obscene amount of money to switch over to their tracksuits instead of
but
Adidas
but
or
what song?
Adidas.
But what song could they write with an acronym or whatever? PUMA. Put. I don't know how to, because it's not all day I dream about sex, and then Puma is
Pull up
pull up
my ass.
my. Yeah, I guess. Are they back to Adidas now? I feel like I always see Jonathan Davis still today wearing Adidas gear, but maybe
I don't know. I think it was just like a publicity move at the
that
time
doesn't
or something.
that feels wrong. I don't. The Puma should be ashamed of themselves, but yeah, we're doing Korn Part 1 because they've got 14 albums, and we're doing the bottom 7 today and the top 7 next time. Before we begin, I just got a comment on one of our videos, and I just wanted to read it and give a shout out real quick. Father Stack was commenting on our Carcass video, and he
Nice.
says, "Peanut butter platypus. I've peanut butter platypused about 50 of your podcast, and you are definitely one of my favorites. Fucking love you guys. Greetings from Scotland."
Oh hell
So,
yeah!
so we want to say, what up, Father Stack? What up, our Scotland peeps? Yeah, that's great. I love seeing that kind of stuff because there are some episodes we do where there's a lot of attention, and then sometimes some are a little more quiet, and it's good to get those reminders that like, oh, people really like what we do.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
some
it's a
people
good
get
feeling.
really disappointed when we take weeks off, and so
Yeah.
so we're back, and I'm really looking forward to this one because I love Korn
Yeah.
and the band too. But
Yeah. I was gonna say as well, like it's so funny that you bring up a shout out to a Scottish listener when we're talking about a band that has bagpipes in it from time to time,
I think
which
almost
is
every album has a bagpipe part on it, except for
yeah,
maybe one or two.
perhaps, yeah, yeah. It's actually like I always forget that it's there, and then whenever I remember that, oh yeah, Jonathan Davis can play the fucking bagpipes. Whenever he pulls that out, I'm just like,
Yeah,
this is fucking cool.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so we'll get going. First part of Korn, but we'll, as we normally do, we talk about like where Korn came into our lives, and mine was their very first video for Blind, and I don't remember ever seeing Blind on MTV. Because I don't think at that point they were a band that MTV was playing. I might be wrong. Maybe they got played at some point, but I don't remember that. What I do remember was I saw that video several times on an Access television show where they played music videos. And honestly, like I liked it, but I wasn't 100% impressed with it, which is weird because now the song I'm just like, it's a fucking banger. But at the
Yeah.
time, I think because I felt like there were a lot, because wasn't it around the same time the first Deftones album was it was in the same year, I think. And
Oh,
then
I'm not sure. Let me look
then
that up.
there were other bands like Downset that were doing like a hardcore kind of thing. Obviously, Rage Against the Machine, oh, and Biohazard. I would throw into that. There was this group at the time. I didn't quite understand how impactful what Korn were doing was going to be. Am I wrong? Were the Korn and Deftones albums in the same year?
Good God. Fucking Deftones formed in the 80s. What the hell? 1988?
There's
What?
that video making the rounds of back when they sounded like fucking Sublime, and it's all like Chino going
Wow.
and I'm like, all right, great, Chino.
Adrenaline came a year later
A year
in
later, okay.
95, yeah.
So
But
maybe it wasn't until '95 that I saw the Blind video, because I remember also seeing the Seven Words video from Deftones and all those
yeah.
things. But I wasn't a fan at first, but I had a lot of friends who were at
Yeah.
school, and I would go. You would go to somebody's house, and if they were smoking weed, you guarantee at some point one of the first two Korn albums was going to be on, because they love
Nice.
those albums. And of course, I, like a lot of people, I really started to pay attention to them when Follow the Leader came out. And then
Yeah.
I would say at that point, I was a fan for several years, and then I kind of fell off. But then I found my way back with their last couple albums. And now I'm just doing that thing where I feel really dumb that I haven't just been on board with everything they've done for the whole time. Because I'm just like, man, all this shit's fucking great. Which means it was a really rough ranking. But when was your were they on a Grand Theft Auto or no?
They weren't, but they were one of the earliest heavy bands I did get into. Before I really discovered like the early 90s stuff, and I was just being exposed to what was being played on Kerrang and Scuzz, those like music video TV channels.
Yeah.
Like Korn were on a lot, and lots of Korn songs are bangers. So like
Yeah.
the amount of times Korn came up, and I was like, I really like this.
Yeah.
This is fucking cool. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, I need to get a hold of a Korn album. Well, I went to, one of those little HMV trips.
Mhm.
Well, I found one of those like 3 album packs that you
Yeah.
can get, and it had Life is Peachy, Follow the Leader, and Issues.
Oh.
Uh, and I knew most of the songs from Follow the Leader, and so I kind of stuck with that one mainly. Dabbled in the other two, but that was like my
Yeah.
main one. And I had like a little bit of a new metal thing before ultimately getting more into thrash, grunge, eventually glam. And that was around the time where I became more interested in the 80s and the early 90s. So
Mhm.
Korn and new metal in general kind of like took a back seat to my interest until pretty much until we started doing this podcast. When we started doing episodes like System of a Down and Limp Bizkit. Go check those out if you haven't heard them.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, this podcast I think really reignited my love for that like mid to late 90s, early 2000s new metal stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's the last era, at least to my ears, where every band is like unified but unique at the same time, you know?
I think a lot of like subgenres, when they first kind of start to blow up, that it seems to be that's the way it is. It's a group
Mm.
of bands all kind of fitting in the same area, but all having their own unique sort of spin on things. And then
Like
like
like grunge,
handful
yeah.
and thrash metal and death metal. But then you just give it several years, and all of a sudden it's just a whole lot of bands that are
Yeah.
just lesser versions of bands you've already heard.
Copy of a copy of a copy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It much like all genres that oversaturate and end up killing themselves as a result, you know. But
I always
you know,
say that that's a, it's a, you can, everyone complains about that, but I say that that's a testament to how powerful that particular subgenre was. If
mhm.
you get to that point where you have that kind of reach that they're like signing up who the fuck ever, then I'm all like, wow, that right there is an important subgenre that needs to be taken seriously. And so
Yeah.
but I think the problem was with new metal, and the same with glam, was it eventually got hard to take it seriously because it became a
Yeah.
lot. It started to seem style over substance after a
Yeah,
little
for
bit.
sure.
And unfortunately for me, like I guess it's not unfortunate. I don't know. It's not unfortunate because I feel disconnected from the world a little bit this way. I was already completely over new metal when Linkin Park started, and then people were like
Right.
Linkin Park, and I'm all like, how does anybody like this band? And I still feel that way. I hear any Linkin Park song and I go, who? I mean, this is fine, but it's not great. Um,
I think I would put it down to Linkin Park being, and this ain't me shitting on them because I do like quite a few of their songs, but like
yeah,
I think the problem is they're like the less spicy version of new metal, where it's like
Yeah.
It's streamlined and cleaned up a bit more,
It
and it's
seems very paint by numbers, where it's like, okay, this part needs to have some angsty vocals. This part needs a rap part. This part needs a wiki wiki, and then like
the,
it's
that somewhere on YouTube from ages ago, there's a parody of Linkin Park, and it's so funny. And it's just a bunch of dudes like standing in the desert, and they're like, uh, computerized beats. We got them from the start. Chester comes along and sings this part, and it's so fucking funny. Like it,
yeah,
don't get me wrong. Songs like "Crawling," in the end, all that stuff is, they're bangers of a generation.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
definitely do think, when I think new metal, I'm definitely leaning more towards Korn, Korn, Limp
yeah.
Bizkit, um, you know, that the ones that really lean into it. I feel like Linkin Park are the pop version of new metal, and I think they like it
And
that
that would
way.
make sense how they have such a, it seems like a universal appeal. So I guess that would make sense, because if you cross over into that world,
Yeah,
you got to have the elements that are going to please a large number of people. So
yeah.
yeah. But we're not talking about Linkin Park. Maybe one day we'll get to them, but I'm not in a hurry. Today is Korn, which arguably is the band that's responsible for all those other bands,
Yes.
because like even like Sepultura, took a note from the first Korn album, and got more groovy and stuff. And
Hmm.
I yeah, so yeah, at the time I did not know how important that album was, but now I know. And now we've got 14, which I think I messaged you yesterday and said like 10 of
Yeah.
these albums are fucking fantastic, and the other 4 are still good. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things where like putting them in an order was a little bit of a headache for me, but it was one of those things where it felt okay, and then I just stepped away from it, and then here's the order. So let's jump in to our bottom 7 Korn albums, and as usual, I throw it over to Eddie, and he's going to let us know what his number 14, dead last Korn album is. Will we match up? It's quite possible.
Okay. Okay. So now I have it in my head for some reason that because you respect stylistic turns, that you would have this at least a little bit higher.
Oh,
However, in this case, because it's such a departure for me, and I also have hang-ups about the time it came out in my life. However, setting that aside, I'm going to be brutally honest. My number 14, solely based on the fact that it is not what I go to Corn for, it is the
mhm.
Path of Totality.
No, man. We're nowhere near that album for me.
Okay. Okay, cool. Really, though, I don't really have any legitimate like put downs or shit ons for the
Sure.
album. I think they did a really good job of doing like a dubstep take on the Corn sound.
Mhm.
It just so happens to be that when I think of Corn, I think dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun dun, dun, not blah 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 blah. So
Also
yeah,
around the time the album came out, Skrillex was very trendy.
yes,
So it almost seemed like a "Hey fellow kids" move.
yeah.
But
But
I think they pulled it off. But yeah.
I am in agreement with you that they pulled it off, and I have very positive things to say. There is not a Corn album that I dislike, and I'm very much of the mindset of considering how popular it is to hate on new metal and shit on bands like Corn.
Mhm.
Corn are so consistent. Like
Yeah.
they've put out good shit all the way through. Um, so yeah, Path of Totality. It's the dubstep album. So they're collaborating with Skrillex, Noisia, a bunch of them, and to mention all of the fucking features on this album would be exhausting. So I'm ignoring that, and I'm just going to talk about the songs as they are. So Chaos Lives in Everything, coming right out of the gate with that oh so early 2010s wubba dubstep bass. Now Here's something, right? I've finally reached the point in my life where I can say that I lived through something that is not in style anymore. And that is the absolute explosion of dubstep
Yeah.
when it came along, right? What was like 2010 Skrillex really exploded, and you would not get through a bus journey without hearing coming from like a year eight's phone for about 4 straight years.
Yeah.
And I just remember there was a big divide whether or not, if you liked metal, you were an emo by default,
Yeah.
you know, and if you liked stuff not like that, you were a chav. Really, it's just silly labels and playground shit.
Yeah.
But Path
And
to
I was and I
Totality,
and I was and I was
yeah,
fucking, already in my 30s or whatever at that point.
yeah.
I didn't care one way or the other.
Yeah, you'd have been 32 and I was 12.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. That period of high school was not a good time for me. So it does remind me of that era. But I've managed to finally the fact that I got through the album is testament to how far I've come as a person.
Yeah.
That I'm able to finally divorce things like that from a piece of art and my own personal bullshit. But yeah, Kill Mercy Within is a vibey one. My Wall, I get a slight Nine Inch Nails vibe here. Now, I will say, Narcissistic Cannibal is a fucking banger. I remember when this came out, and the group who loved all the new metal bands were hating on dubstep. When
Mhm.
this dropped, they were in such a state of confusion and backpedaling. It was hilarious. Like within a week, they had Skrillex on their phone, and it was like, what side of the fence are you on?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an eye opener for me to just stop caring about shit like that. Illuminati is conspiracy dubstep core. Burn the Obedient dubstep with growls, very 2011. Sanctuary is an unsettling one. Let's Go. There's some cool side chainy stuff going on. Get Up. Loved the song when it came out, still do, and I love Fieldy's fluorescent green glowing bass strings in the video.
Mhm.
And that I remember seeing that at 13 years old and thinking, this motherfucker's got glowing bass strings. That's cool as shit. Way Too Far, more vibes. Bleeding Out, again, I don't hate this. It's just that this is the sound I'm least likely to seek from the band. So
Yeah. Yeah.
therefore it ended up at the bottom. Kind of like how oh, fuck, what's that Slayer album that's a bunch of punk covers?
Undisputed
Attitude.
Attitude.
Yeah, so like I don't hate it, but it's the least essential for me.
Yeah.
Fuels the Comedy is kind of sassy and groovy. Intentions, a pounding dubsteppy closer. Honestly, like I say, not a bad album. Just sonically the least, and this is the only context where this will be a positive adjective, the least corny of their discography.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going with Path to Totality
Okay.
at the bottom, not because it's bad, but because it's just a little out of character.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I agree with the out of character part, but that isn't an actual gripe that I have about it. These few albums here, I do have legitimate gripes about, even though I do enjoy things about them. This is the one I have here is weird because a Korn song that I absolutely love is on this album, but
I can guess
overall,
it.
the album, what is it?
It's Korn 3, Remember Who You Are.
No.
Oh, damn.
Close,
Okay.
close though. My number 14 is "Take a Look in the Mirror" from 2003. Now, the song "Y'all Want a Single" is a fucking banger. I love that song.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. So it's their sixth album, and it's the last they put out with the original lineup. And
Yeah.
and it's my biggest issue with this album is that it's got this weird dry production that almost sounds like a demo. Like
Yeah.
I'm really just like and I know that early 2000s I think a lot of bands did this. We got to get more stripped back, and maybe that was the point. But this came out the year after Untouchables, an album that apparently cost $3 million to make, has a really big sound, and then a year later there's this album that apparently was rushed, not only because they had to go on tour, but also because they'd spent so much fucking money on the last album that didn't really do that well. But yeah, I read that. Well, we'll get to Untouchables, but I read that like when it comes to like housing and all the things they needed for the time it took to make the album, it was a total of around $3 million to make that album. So take a look in the mirror. I guess they were just trying to like, look, let's put something else out and let's go on tour. But the production and everything just makes the album just feels lazy and sluggish, which is two things I would never think I would equate with a Korn album. And the songwriting seems a little bit uninspired. Once again, maybe this is because it was rushed. And I have said it in the past, sometimes being rushed can make you do some of your best shit, in my opinion. But obviously other times it could be, lesser because it's, I don't know, especially with the standard that Korn had set at that point. But maybe with better production, it could have been more enjoyable. But it's so weak that like every time there's a part where a song is supposed to like kick in, it always like sounds weak as fuck. And I'm just like, who approved this mix? Like, who would listen to this and be like, yep, that's what we're going for? That sort of build up to nothing really happening. And that's a few cool parts throughout the album, I guess, but nothing that makes this a memorable album. And what's even more sort of disappointing for me is not only do I love Y'all Want a Single, but also when you have an album and you're like, oh, there's going to be a song and Nas is on it. Even that song is underwhelming. And I'm just like, all right, well, they get points for being able to throw this together very quickly, but the lower quality in the songwriting along with the bad production, it just makes this an album that is an absolute not go-to album for me in the Korn discography. That being said, I probably play Y'all Want a Single at least a couple times a month just because I'm just like, I got to get pumped up for something. And that's one of those ones that just always does it for me. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, overall the album I think is their weakest. So that was my number 14.
Fair enough. I like that one a little more, but with that, I'm gonna jump over to my number 13, which is Korn 3, Remember Who You Are.
We matched up.
First matchup. This might be. We'll see. We'll have to see if we can recreate the helmet episode where we had a version of the same ranking. So yeah, Korn 3, Remember Who You Are. The return of Ross Robinson in pretty much. They said it themselves. It was a bit of a forced effort to get back to their roots after a couple quite experimental albums in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
And this album starts strong, but it doesn't stay as strong as it starts.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Ross Robinson, like, I don't know what happened to Ross Robinson, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, if his name was on it, the album was a banger. And then all of a sudden, several years later, bands kept going back to him, and they were weak as fuck sounding. And this is the second weak as fuck Korn album on my list. And I'm just like, I don't understand somebody that could bring out that kind of sound from bands, and then later on, there's several bands that went to Ross Robinson, and I'm just like, man, they could have done so much better. Like, what is he doing? And so, but yeah, it's disappointing because it needs to be bigger and thicker, and it's not. It's a little bit. There's a lot of weak sauce going on there.
I've currently got Ross Robinson's albums discography up, and it is staggering. You've got Korn, Adrenaline, Roots by Sepultura, fucking Life is Peachy, a $3 bill, y'all. Like Slipknot's first album,
Yep.
Iowa. Like
Yep.
Jesus Christ! Like looking through this, it's like a who's who of that entire era.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like you say, something along the way got a little
Because
lost in translation.
yeah, there's a few albums he did from this time period, 2009 ish, where I was so just like, oh, Ross Robinson, and every time I'd be like, this, what is something's not right here. It really is, and I mean maybe it was that whole sort of thing of backing away from the new metal thing and being like, oh no, this won't be so in your face. But some of this music, that's what it needs. It needs in your face
Yeah.
production.
I thought that too. Like this album sounds really thin.
Yeah, but it is the first with Ray Luzier on drums, and that dude fucking rules.
Yes, he does.
So yeah.
So with that, Uber Time is like an intro kind of track to Oildale. Leave Me Alone. Great stuff. Love the chorus on this one. When I got into heavy music, this song had just come out. So when I saw it on TV, I was like, oh, nice. Why don't you just leave me alone?
Yeah.
Almost has like a Doctor Who kind of rhythm to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Maybe that should be a mashup.
Yeah.
I really
Plays all
love
the bagpipes.
I absolutely love, and you probably agree with me, I absolutely love the late 80s version of the Doctor Who theme.
Yeah.
Where all the kind of, it was very like, they just did everything on synthesizer. And I mean, maybe the first one kind of was too, but like this one had it sounded very 80s. And then the beginning was all like lights and neon and shit. And
like really early Pixar CG TARDIS floating in space with a bunch of fucking asteroid looking shit. Yeah. Cool stuff.
But that song's great though. I mean, every single one of their albums has bangers on it. And that's the thing that's that just to say about Korn is that even the albums that I don't like as much, you play certain songs from it, and I'll be like, it's an undeniable banger.
Absolutely. Like even the like Pop a Pill's got a cool riff in it. Fear is a Place to Live. It's a dancey beat with some heavy bits over it. Move On. It was at this point the album really feels weirdly thin considering the riffage and the band in question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you stack this next to, I mean, how do you make an album that sounds like Untouchables and then end up here?
Yeah.
You know, and it's wait, was he involved with Untouchables? He had to have been, right?
I don't think so. I don't think that one was him.
Oh shit! Did he do Issues? Oh, he only did the first two.
Yeah, I don't think, because I think that it was the guy that does Pearl Jam. Didn't he do Issues?
Oh, was that Brendan O'Brien?
Brendan O'Brien. Didn't Brendan O'Brien do a couple of them?
Oh, I got a little mixed up there. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, their early albums sound great to this day, and this one just screams Loudness Wars to me.
There's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
I have no issues with the album Issues.
Yeah. Lead the Parade's got a bit of a swing to it. Let the Guilt Go is a catchy one. The Past, heavy viber. Never Around is a cool song. Are You Ready to Live? Sorry, Are You Ready to Live? Some cool drumming on this.
Are you ready to live?
To live. like you say, Ray Luzier, cool drumming is an understatement. That dude's a beast. Both their drummers they've had have been fucking beasts, man. Holding All These Lies is a heavy but melodic track. Trapped Underneath the Stairs, like that Harry Potter lad, isn't it? And,
that's Korn's version of Trapped in the Closet? Who remembers that? That was a thing for. I guess people don't talk about it anymore because it's like, you know, R. Kelly. No, we're done with him.
I still regularly revisit the Weird Al version, Trapped in the Drive-Thru. That thing is a classic.
Oh, yeah. I just remember
So we head out the front door, open the garage door, then I unlock the car doors, and I open the car doors, put my key in the ignition, and then I turn it sideways.
But I remember when they were first releasing the Trapped in the Closet things, and it was literally the exact. It's so lazy because if you listen to it, it's the exact same track just played like 10 times. There's no differences in it. He just sings different lyrics, and every single one is supposed to have like a cliffhanger at the end of it. And I just remember, I don't know if these are the exact lyrics, but in my memory, this is how it ended. And all of a sudden, he goes, "And the man was a midget, midget, midget." Midget. That's the end of the track. Like that was the big reveal at the end of that one, is that a man showed up to the house and he's a midget. And I just remember, like, sorry for little people, but that's the word he used. And I was just like, that's the twist here. But anyway, that was a series of songs that R. Kelly put out where it tells a story where he's at some lady's house and she's cheating on her husband, and then he's going to come home, so he shuts himself in the closet to hide, and all these other things happen. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. That was the weirdest. My brain had not thought about Trapped in the Closet for so many years, and all of a sudden, Trapped Under the Stairs just opened that part of my brain up. But anyway, where were we?
We were at People Pleaser, which is Heavy Closer. Honestly, like, Korn doing Korn well, unfortunately, it doesn't sound good compared to other albums. So,
yeah,
you know, that lets it down big time. And, you know, calling it Korn 3, Remember Who You Are, and then not hitting the mark is just a bit of an ouch.
Also, can we talk about how this is their worst album cover? Both versions of it is the worst Korn album cover, because there's a thing that was so common in the early 2000s where everyone from metal bands to emo bands, the album cover was random young girl standing somewhere or what. I was just like, holy shit, there's so many album covers that it's just random girl. And I'm just like, all right, I don't know. I don't get what the trend was, but the second cover of the album with the girl standing on the side of the road, that particular album cover, there's at least 10 other bands that have that exact same album cover of random girl standing on side of road.
And I know they tried to go down the route of like recapturing that, you know, sinister, you know, evil child snatcher silhouette vibe from the first album. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the thing that they were going for. Perhaps. And I feel like the one with the dude looking out of the car windows is a bit more effective, but the one with the girl just standing by the road just either screams to me Nickelback or "Tonight will be the night that I will fall for you."
Yeah, like, absolutely.
You know, it's just absolutely. That's the vibe I get. I like the idea of being stood around an oil refinery. That's pretty metal.
Yeah. But so the album's better than the album cover. Yes. I think overall it's a good album, but it is to me, I liked the experimental things. So this really feels like a band going, "Oh, some people didn't like that. All right, here we go. We'll do this." And
feels like a back pedal.
And on top of that, they were going for a more stripped down approach, but these songs don't need that. They need more. And Ross Robinson coming back should have given them more, and they don't have more. It's just not good enough for me. Not a bad album, just not good enough. And another one of the few albums from Korn that are not go-tos for me. So much so that, like, this particular album is one where I don't know if I had ever even listened to it before we did this ranking. Because
this one, Korn 3.
Korn 3.
Yeah.
Because as I was going through it, I listened to it a couple times, and the first time I expected there to be more songs that I recognized, and I was like, no, I guess I've never listen to this album at all. And so,
Wow.
but even after hearing it a couple times, there's really not much that's going to bring me back to it. So it's, I mean, it's good. If you're a Korn completist, then it's essential. But
Corn
it's not.
Priest.
It's a Korn completist. Ooh, I like that. But yeah, so it's my number. It's our number 13. So moving.
A corn farmer.
I'll edit that. I'll edit that out.
These jokes are corny.
All right, number 12.
Okay, yes, number 12. This is where I feel unsure of myself, but also quite justified at the same time. My number 12 pick is the Paradigm Shift.
Hey, my number 12 also. We matched up again.
Hey, look at this shit. Look at this. Hey. So yeah, Paradigm Shift. Now is this the album where Head comes back?
Yes. So this
Okay.
this was 2013, and this was the one where it was the big deal because Head came back from being a religious weirdo or whatever.
After
don't
they
know.
stopped giving head to God. So yeah, the Paradigm Shift. Uh, let's just dive on in.
All
So,
right.
pray for me, spelt pray, as in I'm gonna catch that and eat it. Great opener, cool song.
Mm-hmm.
Love and Meth, love that riff. What We Do has a cool groove to it. Spike in My Veins, sneaky vibes. Mass Hysteria, it's just down and dirty, slinky groovage.
Yep.
Paranoid and Aroused, essentially my two moods. Never Never. Now, there's a part in Never Never that totally could have been on Path of Totality. There's like electronic elements still left over
Yeah.
on this album
Yeah.
from the previous album, but they've definitely jumped back to doing more guitar-driven stuff. Punishment Time, that dissonant riff is crushing. Like, there's like 2 or 3 songs on this album where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
ooh, sheesh. Lullaby for a Sadist is like a ballady-ish type thing, is about as close to a ballad as Korn would ever get.
Yeah.
Victimized has some like weird off-kilter bits in it, which I like. It's All Wrong, cool. Wish, wish.
Oh man, you missed a trick right there. You should have been like, "It's all wrong. It's all right."
I mean, it's all right. Wish I Wasn't Born Today is a good penultimate track, and Tell Me What You Want is Jaws theme-esque closer. Like I said, there's a few leftover remnants of the electronic influence, but they've definitely gone back to a guitar-driven rock vibe. It's good, but it's not up there with their greats.
Yeah. Well, the interesting
Over,
thing is that this album came after Korn 3. So they had already gone away
yeah,
from the electronic stuff, but then some of it seeped back in. But I've always liked how they've flirted with electronic stuff and dance stuff and other stuff.
yeah,
So I always like that stuff. It's always welcome for me on a Korn album. So Paradigm Shift is the last one where I would have to say that I'm not a fan of the production.
hmm
And the big, even though like there are good songs on here, I feel like they went a little bit too far into trying to recapture a past era. Like even so much so they're like, "Hey, Head's back," and they were also like, "This album sounds like Issues," or and I'm just like, yeah. Most of the time when bands try to do that, it doesn't that doesn't work out. It feels underwhelming when bands try to do that. Now, Korn
yeah,
eventually figured out a way to actually do that, in my opinion. But on
yeah,
Paradigm Shift, it was still like, they kind of knew they wanted to go back to some classic sounds. But I think that the problem is that this album lacks some variety and some of the excitement of those early albums. So if
yeah,
it's like taking some classic sounds, but it doesn't quite have the urgency and that sort of, always trying to break new ground at this point, there's not really any new ground broken for Korn on this album. And I mean, it has its moments, and I do enjoy some things on it. But yeah, it's not one that I'm super crazy about. So that's also my number 12, Paradigm Shift.
Okay, nice. We're rolling on through this. So, my number 11 is it could have multiple names. You could call it the Untitled Album. You could call it Korn. You could call it Korn 2. You call it Sweet Corn, Cream Corn, whatever. It's up to you.
Elote in Mexico.
They specifically called it the Untitled Album.
Yeah.
Like it's referred to as Untitled.
We did not match up on this one.
Yeah, I thought not. So like, the thing for me is, I like what Korn do here, but again, I'm going off of like gut feeling, instinct, solely to make this ranking easier for myself, because you and I both know this is one of the hardest rankings we've ever had to do.
Yeah.
It's very consistent.
Yeah.
But again, like I say, I like Korn when it's so I'm gonna jump into Untitled. So intro, it speaks for itself, but it's got a spooky carnival vibe going on. Kind of bungle-esque.
I have this memory in my brain from when I was in high school, or was it junior high? I just remember, I don't even remember what album it was that I'd brought, because I always brought like my Walkman and some tapes to school. And I remember some kid was like looking through my stuff, and he was looking through one particular album, and he saw that the first song was called Intro, and he literally said these words, "Intro. That sounds like a good one." And I was like, I mean, it's the intro, okay. I mean, for what it is, yes, very good.
Oh, that's great. Do you remember what album it is?
I don't remember what album it was, but I just remember that moment of me thinking, this is a person that doesn't know music very well, and so he was like, "Intro. That sounds like a good one." Yeah.
Oh man. That's funny. That's really funny. Like, I'm just envisioning it in my head. Dude busts out a cassette, dead serious, goes, "Intro."
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed this, but being people like you and I are, you inevitably throughout your life run into these people that it almost seems like your world of being so immersed in music is completely foreign to them.
Yeah, totally alien concept.
Yeah, and so just things that are very just like a given to us, other people look at it and go, what is this exactly? And you're like, how could you not know?
Yeah.
but I've come into contact with so many people where it's just like music means absolutely nothing to them, and so they have not bothered to learn anything about it. And I'm just like, cool. I mean, that's your life, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Outro. There's a sequel? It was so good they did it twice.
It was a really cool idea that they put intro at the beginning and outro at the end. Like, who thinks that way? These guys are on another level.
Oh, dude. That's sometimes comedy writes itself.
That's true. It's absolutely true.
Oh, that's incredible. So yeah, the Untitled Album.
Intro. We got as far as intro.
So I'm starting over now with the song "Starting Over." Wait,
like it.
See, sounds like a good one. It's this album kind of really builds off of the weird and wacky stuff that happened on "See You on the Other Side," because Head left and they took a bit more of a different direction. They worked with pop producers. They wanted to try something different if they couldn't do what the original lineup did. So
you also have to remember that, like, part of the way this album sounds, if you think about it, because it's I think it's mostly produced by Atticus Ross, who is
Yeah.
now a full-time member of Nine Inch Nails.
I'll get there. I'll
Okay,
get
okay.
there. So yeah, you've got starting over, which takes things another step in the direction of hooky but weird,
Yeah.
which is, you could argue that that's a lot of Korn, but this album is less focused on the dun dun and
Well,
more
I think
on
the equation
weird
is usually
atmosphere.
like hooky, weird, heavy, and then this
Mhm.
just the heavy it's kind of been taken away.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is the
quite
same thing with Path of Totality. It's the same thing. So
yeah, and it's funny because I'm about to say, "Bitch, we got a problem," but it's funky and groovy. It's cool. Evolution. I remember hearing this song on the bus coming from my friend's flip phone because he had it as his ringtone. Um,
wow.
yeah, shit like that is starting to make me realize time waits for no man. Right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I'm 25 now, right? I am the age that you have to look like to be old enough to buy things over here. There's this whole think 25 thing over here.
Okay.
If they look younger than 25, you need to ID them for, alcohol, cigarettes, knives, whatever that may be. I'm getting sidetracked. What I'm saying is I'm legally allowed to say these damn kids. So with that, thinking back to when my friends had Motorola Razors and
Hmm.
would listen to Korn out of them and thinking like what we have now, you know.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh
like how
God, what?
I like how we both have ladies on our phones when you open them up.
Hey.
Because
Devoted men
yeah,
right there.
we are good husbands slash boyfriends.
That we are. So yeah. Hold On is a cool vibe to it. Um, Kiss is a band formed in 1972 by Paul Stanley. Gene's
And a popular song by Prince from the
yeah.
1980s.
Now this is where I was going to touch on the Atticus Ross stuff. It really struck me at this point in the album that I was sensing a strong Nine Inch Nails vibe.
Yeah.
Everby is strange in a cool way. Love and Luxury, more Nine Inch Nails vibes. Innocent Bystander, some cool bits in that. Killing, I really do get a 2000s Nine Inch Nails vibe throughout this album.
Hmm.
And like, obviously now that I've remembered Atticus Ross, duh. But like
Yeah.
at the time
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that way. I was like, wow, this really does sound like Nine Inch Nails. But with Jonathan Davis over it. Hushabye, creepy lullaby vibes. I Will Protect You has some absolutely mental drumming in it. This album is Korn at their weirdest in the sense that it's not like twist weird, but it's more what can we do to expand off of what we can do. Where later in the game we kind of have creative license with whatever we want to fucking do.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the album where they did that the most, and I think it's cool. You got a lot of different flavors on this, most
Hmm.
notably a very Nine Inch Nails one. But yeah, it's cool. I like
Yeah.
it. But again, there's that thing of when I think Korn, dun dun,
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna be doing
Okay.
that a lot. Someone
Yeah.
needs to like make a compilation of every time I go dun dun this on this episode and the next one.
That's when you know we have really great fans when things like that start popping up. But we're not that big yet. When people aren't doing edits with our
Yeah.
shit. Because really,
Someone
we've said so many words in all these episodes we've done that you could just make us sing whatever song or rap song, whatever you wanted to do if you just took the time. But
Yeah.
whatever.
So some dude made a fucking race car out of us. I mean, that's so
Oh
cool.
yeah.
That iRacing model that what's his name? Let's give him a shout out on the show.
I feel bad that I don't remember, but I'm also really shitty with names. I barely remember yours most of the time.
Okay, hang on. Okay, keep him occupied. Give them
Well,
the lowdown on.
I'll explain what it is we're talking about. So over on the Old Head Bangers and Beyond Facebook group, yes, I'm an old man, so I have a Facebook group, but there's a lot of people on it, and one of our fans, I guess on a game you can design your own like race car, and he designed it where it's the colors from our artwork, the pinkish and the black and whitish and all that stuff, and it has catchphrases on it. The back of it says peanut butter platypus, and the car number is 69. And
it's got the GTA San Andreas logo on it. It's got the Sage logo. That's my band, by the way.
Yeah. Also, I think at some point on it says "without further ado."
Yeah, and it's got front bum on the hood. Which
front bum on the hood. Yeah.
Front bum on the hood. Sounds like a fucking really bad hip hop album. I found him.
Okay.
The cranked and ranked late model is now available to be raced in iRacing. Yeah. So it's a Shane Cassakert.
Okay. Shane
Cassakert.
Yeah, great work, man. Maybe if I can find it, I'll throw pictures of it in the video so people can see what we're talking about. But it is fucking great.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
The big pink 69 completes it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. So back to Korn.
So I guess we're on to my number 11 because your number 11 was Untitled.
Yes, it was.
And my number 11 is The Serenity of Suffering from 2016. Okay. So my complaints about the sound of a particular Korn album ends here. Because this is their 12th album, but it's the first one I think that they worked with Nick Raskulinez, I think is how you say his name, who has done all kinds of amazing sounding albums. He did Rush's last couple albums. He did Mastodon. He did Deftones. He's worked with all kinds of artists, and it should always sounds good. So this album sounds great, and it's better songwriting for me than the previous album. This is them, to me, almost getting to the point where I think they've mastered taking old school Korn elements and presenting them in a modern, more mature way. But I think with Serenity of Suffering, it's still not quite there yet for me. And it really does, like now that we're this far into this band and you start hearing them doing these songs that do sound like they could have been off of early albums, there's like two things that I'm reminded of. And number one, it's that their sound, it's very clear like what made them such an important band in the early 90s. Just hearing those sounds and you go, yeah, like you can see why it inspired a shitload of bands to do similar things.
There was nothing really up to that point that sounded like Korn. There was stuff that can make up elements of Korn, like Faith No More, Rage Against the Machine, that sort of thing.
But also on top of that, can you think, even this far along in their career, can you think of another band that even sounds similar to Korn? Like doing the combination of things that Korn do. I can't think of another band that does the same kind of thing, even though bands have been inspired by them, and some of those bands have bands that sound like each other. Korn is still such a unique band.
Yeah.
It almost gives them license to be like, look, if we want to redo some shit, similar sounds that we've already done before, nobody else is doing it. And if anybody tries, they can't do it as well as we can do it. And so it's...
Yeah, but my mind kind of jumps to Loco by Coal Chamber, but not to the level to which Korn do Korn,
No.
That clicky bass.
Yeah,
like,
but in the respect of Coal Chamber, they don't have the dynamic vocals of Home Dude. What the why? Where's my brain?
Davis.
Jonathan Davis. Holy shit!
Johnny Davidson.
Yeah.
So did you ever see? Do you ever see that documentary?
No.
It's this Scottish guy with Tourette's, and like they've got like a good sense of humor about it, but it's a you know it's a debilitating thing, but the
Mhm.
dude's got a sense of humor about it, and it's just a great watch. But yeah, it's
Okay.
called Johnny Davidson, and it just jumped into my mind. I'm realizing now that I just did an impression of someone with Tourette's, but you know, I
Yeah.
have a mild case of it myself,
You
and I
weren't.
don't mean that. I do get like the odd tick every now and again in whenever I'm stressed.
I
So
I actually do have elements of that too that like nobody knows about. Like not even because like I control it, but if I'm ever like in a car by myself, I will out loud make ridiculous sounds because it feels really good. And so like and I don't know where it comes from, so it's got to be something, some form of Tourette's or something like that. But for me it's controllable, but I would be lying if I didn't say that like it feels good just to like get some awkward weird shouty sounds out of me.
yeah,
So anyway,
yeah,
but yeah, Korn doing Korn in 2016 sounds great, and really like my biggest issue with Serenity of Suffering is that it suffers from the Serenity of Suffering from a little bit of sameness, where it's like riff blur and vocal blur and things that like, well, I feel like I understand they're good, they're trying to kind of recreate some old school kind of Korn sounds, but I think in this case the songwriting wasn't quite to the point where it sounded very fresh to me. It sounds good, just not super fresh. And it is one of those like at this point with Korn, from Serenity of Suffering on, even though I think their last two albums are better, Korn has gotten to this point now where they put out an album and somebody says, "Oh, how's that new Korn album?" And I'll be like, "Do you like Korn?" "Yeah, cool." I mean, it's like
yeah.
they do Korn, and if you like Korn, you're going to enjoy this album. So anyway, but I think that from 10 on, they are nothing but fantastic albums to me. Those first four, I have my little gripes about, but now top 10 is truly probably the most stacked top 10 I may have ever done. Where I'm just like undeniable 10 albums I think are fucking killer. So
Yeah.
let's move on to number 10.
Cool. Like you said, it's pretty damn great from here on in,
Yeah.
and but barring one big leap, um, between an album you put at your bottom, um, and me, I maybe have a couple further up. But anyway, number 10, my number 10 is "See You on the Other Side."
Okay.
Now this is the first album with this is the first album without Head. Am I right?
I believe
Am I right?
I don't have my notes for that one because it's not in this episode.
Ah,
But I think that you're right. I do think that that's the one right after Head left.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna dive right on in. Twisted Transistor. The video for this song was a total treat when I used to watch the Kerrang and Scuzz channels on TV. It's got the band playing the managers in the record company and, popular rappers of the day standing in for the band. And
Yeah.
it's like a Spinal Tap style mockumentary with like little clips in between parts of the actual song. And just the fact that Snoop Dogg is in the video just makes it that much more. And Lil Jon as Jonathan Davis as well.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, as far
I
as the
mean,
song goes, I love
really,
the
when
song.
it comes to having hip hop heavies in your video,
Yeah,
you can't do any better than Break Stuff, which has Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Dr. Dre.
yeah, true. Yeah, I
I
just
mean,
used to,
I mean, this video is great, but yeah, it's like, come on, do you have Eminem and Dr. Dre in your video?
yeah. I remember the first time I saw the music video, I was like, was was Snoop Dogg in Korn? Bearing in mind, this is me when I'm 11, so like
Yeah.
I'm totally new to this. I'm like, huh? Snoop Dogg's in Korn? And I didn't know what the band looked like.
To be
So
fair, that's a collaboration I would be down to listen to. A Korn album, but Jonathan
yeah,
Davis just hands it over to Snoop Dogg for the whole album.
yeah. Snoop needs to do a new metal revival album ASA fucking P. That would be so sick. Um,
I'd be
see,
down.
that's a revival I'm excited for. I'm excited to move past the oversaturation of gent and metalcore. We have enough for now. Let's bring things back to a simpler, more groove oriented thing. I mean, I suppose you could argue those are groove oriented, but we just need something to jump the fuck up to right now, I think. I
Yeah,
think with the explosion of hip hop's popularity in recent years and a void in popular rock music, I feel like a new metal revival
I,
is coming.
we're going to get there, but right now, unfortunately, what's happening is the hip hop artists that are trying to experiment with rock music, they're all doing pop punk. So or emo or
Yeah.
something. And I'm just like, you guys are kind of going in the wrong way. You take the rhythm, it's like, but I mean, I'm an old man, so I don't know what's going on in the world. And some,
Well,
I
I'm
like
25 and I agree. So
I do appreciate the bands that incorporate different things. I think my problem is a lot of the quote unquote experimentation going on in music these days, whether it's on the hip hop side or on the metal side, it's so basic level.
Mm,
And I understand it because we live in a world now where I think a lot of people are not musically adventurous anymore. And so
uh,
people will hear a rapper do a pop punk song and go, "Oh man, so it's so different." And I'm like, it's not really, because the song just sounds like rehashed, wannabe Green Day or Blink 182 with worse production and worse vocals. But on the other hand, you've got, who's the band du jour today? Sleep Token, who
yes.
literally are doing the most basic level of trying something different, but yet metalheads are all like, you just gotta open your mind. And I'm just like, motherfucker, we've a lot of us have been listening to weird shit, and this is really basic level experimentation here. It's like
I,
it's
I would go as far as to say the new Avenged Sevenfold album
oh,
is much more experimental
I
than Sleep
100%
Token.
agree. I've never enjoyed Avenged Sevenfold ever, and I listened to that album all the way through, and the whole time I was like, "Oh, all right." Um, so kudos to them. Yeah, that to me is truly a band taking a risk, because I know some people hate that album, some people think it's great. Um, but there are other things where just because you're doing a part of your song that just sounds like a pop song that would be popular today, that's not
Yeah,
really experimentation. That's
nah.
like that's literally saying, "Well, here's some popular stuff. I'm gonna." That's like more of like a poser kind of thing, wouldn't you say? To me, anyway.
Motherfucker, I listen to Mike Patton's side projects. You can't fool
Yeah.
me. You can't fool me.
But I
Like
think, but I'm
so
not going to fault anybody for being into it, because I think with some people it might be their gateway to being into more interesting music. So
exactly. And I will say this. There's a Sleep Token song I heard called, I think it's The Summoning. And I really liked it. It's like got a really cool like riff
yeah,
in there. And then later on it's like a sexy funky thing. And I'm like, okay, I like that. It just there's an overwhelming amount of that album struck me as we have three components.
yeah,
Ed,
yeah,
Ed Sheeran, Gent, and Imagine Dragons.
yeah.
And I appreciate genre mashing in
Sure,
any capacity.
sure.
I feel like if you want to come out and be different wholeheartedly respect it. We don't need any more cookie cutter stuff. We are in a world with so much, we're so spoilt for choice now, you know. We're not having, you know, labels with a bunch of different bands and they're just plastered on MTV, because it don't work like that anymore. Everybody's algorithmically fed things that cater to their specific taste. So if you like X band that sounds like this and uses these guitar presets and this exact drum sample pack, you are pretty much going to get 70 different versions of the same band in one playlist, you know?
And maybe that might be why Sleep Token is important, because they're getting fed into the algorithm for people that are getting 70 bands and then they happen to hear a Sleep Token song.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is in this day and age. But I mean, honestly, to me, like,
Maybe Ed Sheeran wasn't fair. Maybe Sam Smith. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Smith's. I like Sam Smith more than Ed Sheeran, but you know, I don't really like either one of them. But but like there's a recent band that I'm really into called Four Stroke Baron, and they are legitimately something where I went, I was not expecting this. This has elements that seem familiar mixed with elements that are unfamiliar for me, and I think it's a very good combination of interesting things. Their last album, which is called Classics, it's literally like, it's got elements of like post-hardcore, but also elements of modern metal. It's mixed by Devin Townsend, and the vocalist sounds like Roland Ozerbel from Tears for Fears. So it's this odd combo of things that somehow just really spoke to me. And so I hear other things that are supposed to be like different, and I go, I mean, yeah, I get why it's very good for other people to be into these things, but it doesn't do anything for me because it doesn't sound different enough. But where we were going, bringing us back around to this conversation, I really think you're right though, because of all these different bands and other bands. You know, Ginger's a good example. Spirit Box. There's these bands that are like these newer ones that have this almost new metal-ish thing, kind of. And I think that we're almost there. So I think that we're going to get, because there is some new metal shit, but sometimes it's way too hardcore-y, or there's way too much of that glitchy
to the dome,
or there's that glitchy electronic stuff where everything is like, ow, you know, it's like stuff like that. But I think that eventually we're going to start coming out with these bands that are going to lean into the new metal, and we just might get some like new, you know, new metal, like an old style through new eyes and ears.
Yeah.
And I think that could be really cool. So I don't know. So I mean, there's always interesting stuff happening, and any rock music that becomes popular at this point, I'm just like, cool. Get everybody into it.
I'm very much all for heavy music getting back to the basics. We have, you know, we've added God knows how many strings to the guitars. We have added so many time signatures to stuff. Let's just get back to what makes the fucking crowd move, the money riff.
Yeah.
And make the whole damn song the money riff.
Thanks, Phil.
You're welcome. I'm Philip H. Anselmo. I've been in every fucking band. I've been in Korn, Super Joint, Shrimp Biscuit.
Shrimp Biscuit.
Rest in peace, Max Shinoda from Shrimp Biscuit, who died in 2003 from being too grunge.
This is just whatever this is, just roll with it.
Just Phil rattling off a bunch of misinformation.
Man, where are we? I don't even know where.
Knock on wood. Oh, okay, yeah. We
I
are
don't.
okay. We're done with track one of "See You on the Other Side."
Oh shit. Twisted
Right.
Transistor, which my daughter loves that song. She like that's one that she added to our.
Hey yo. I love that.
Yeah, I just like that. Anesthetize this bitch, anesthetize.
Yeah. Oh, music do. Like
Yeah,
I tell you what, right? Jonathan Davis may not be like the most traditionally trained, quote unquote, like pretty singer, but the dude is one of the most identifiable people in heavy music ever.
I
Like
think
across, he's one
I
of the
think he's
most,
one
if
of the
not,
best vocalists
yeah,
in heavy music. I think that
yeah,
he's his uniqueness, his style, and he can sing some good shit. But you're right. He's not like your traditional vocalist, but I
yeah,
really think if you do like a top 10 of metal vocalists over the past like 30 years, like Jonathan
yeah,
Davis is
he's
in the
up
top
there.
10 at least, if not higher. I mean, it's like, yeah,
And I think he's like become a better singer as time's gone on. Like
yeah, I
he
think
can
so too.
do like you know, you hear it in the early days and it's very raw, whereas now it's like there's so many layers of harmony and cool like extra
Yeah,
shit he throws in. I mean, he's always done that, but he knows how to do
yeah.
it in the right spots and it's just great. The whole package of Jonathan Davis is just you know the planets really aligned when it made him because that dude is just so
And
cool.
honestly, and the whole band, if you think about
Y-
them, like if
yeah.
you, like I have the VHS of like their very first thing they put out. I guess
Wow.
I guess it's when they were making Follow the Leader, not Follow the Leader. Life is Peachy. I think. All I know is it's like there's early footage of them and stuff, and just like seeing how unique everyone in that band already was and that they
Yeah.
found each other. I just look at that and I go, man, that's the kind of shit that you could not, in my wildest dreams I would never think of getting a band together like that, where it's
Yeah.
like I almost feel like every single member of the band is a very important component in their sound. And they got to
Yeah.
this point now where they've just replaced one great drummer with another great drummer. But
Yeah.
it baffles me because I'm just like, you're right. Jonathan Davis himself is so unique, but the whole
Yeah.
rest of the band, I'm just like, it's crazy that those dudes just lived and knew each other in high school or shit. It's like
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Yeah. It's wild as well to think about their like early demo like because people credit in retrospect now Korn's debut being the first new metal album. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Korn's debut is the kill 'em all of new metal. It
Yeah.
you know ushered in the you know this is day one basically. But have you ever heard that like Neidmeier's Mind demo from like
Yeah.
1993? I mean,
Yeah.
when you think they were doing this shit earlier than that,
Yeah.
to have seen that would be like it's like almost a portal to the future. Imagine seeing that, having no idea this is a sound you've never heard before, and then
Hmm.
just da dong da dong da dong da dong da 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 da. So cool. That would have been awesome.
Well,
But yeah,
really one of the examples of of people literally coming together and making something unique. Like that doesn't happen that often.
yeah,
So
absolutely. But with that,
song two.
politics, yes, they've definitely shifted from the new metal focus over to poppy hooks on this album.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
new metal was on its ass by the mid 2000s. You know, emo had taken over at that point. So you know, you got hypocrites. I like the evolution of the sound on this album so far. It like
Hmm.
sure it's different, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
When you know, I am in agreement with you that to this point, take a look in the mirror is the weakest of the first six. So it was clear by that one. It new metal had run its course pretty much by that point. You
Yeah.
know, 1993 is basically the 1991 glam band scenario where it's like, oh fuck, Nirvana's here, we're screwed. Um, but, uh, yeah, Souvenir's got a killer riff to it. 10 or a Two Way is a cool song. Throw Me Away. We see some Nine Inch Nails flavored stuff start to show up.
Yeah.
Love Song. Melody was never not a part of Korn, but this album really emphasizes it. You know, obviously being much more of a pop producer's mindset
Yeah.
on this one. Open Up. The outro to that song is unhinged. Coming Undone, love the groove to that song. I used to love the video for that too, like the cracks in the sky and it like falls apart.
Mhm.
Really cool stuff. Getting Off, are those flurries of double kick? You know, we've not really had any double kick to this point. It's largely just been groove focused, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
boom, boom, cat, like sort of stuff. Liar, cool. For No One, grooves, seen it all, cool. You know, Tearjerker, really cool vibey closer. You know, the Tearjerker almost feels a little bit before its time. You know, I could hear that song coming out now, and it's cool stuff. I think this album could have benefited from some fat trimming, but it's pretty damn cool. It's pretty damn cool as like a step in a different direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was See You on the Other Side.
Cool.
Over to you.
My number 10 is the Untitled album from 2007.
Okay.
Their eighth album and their first without David Silveria. But they did get Terry Bozzio on drums, which, you know, if you played with Frank Zappa, I mean, you're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And I really like this album because it is another step in their evolution of them just saying, fuck it, let's...
Evolution.
There you go. There you go.
I had to.
But I really do. I like that they even at that point, so it's 2007, they're not at the point where they're just resting on doing the same shit all the time. Now, sure, they do have albums where they did, you know, try to just do something they've already done before, but you know, albums like this and Path of Totality, like they didn't have to do those. You know, it's like they could have, you know, in fact, some fans, you know, were against these experiments. But I think that that's what makes Korn such a great band, is that it wasn't the kind of thing where like, all right, third, fourth album, we experiment a little and then we just groove into doing our same old shit. But no, like down the line, album number 8, they're just like, yeah, we're going to do kind of an industrial thing and not so much on the heavy thing. And you know, it's still heavy at times, but for me, this album, it's more like the sound of it and the way everything sounds is just makes it such an interesting listen for me. But I also think a lot of the songs are really good. I really think that, so I guess it comes to the point of why is it number 10? I like it so much. Coming off from See You on the Other Side, I think the self-titled or the untitled album is not as engaging. Even though I enjoy the experimentation, it's not quite, it doesn't hold on to me quite as much. And I think around the middle of the album, it loses a little bit of steam. But you know, I don't think there's really any songs that I would remove. I think maybe it's a song order and pacing kind of thing. But I would say that in this particular case, the things that I like about Korn the most is the interesting songwriting choices and the fact that they always seem like they want to experiment. And both of those things are present on this album. The thing that isn't as much present here, which I also like, is more of an urgency and heaviness with their music, like you said. So that's why it's here at number 10, even though I think it's an amazing album. There's more amazing albums than this one. And so yeah, my number 10 is that one.
Yeah,
it's untitled.
Yeah. Cool. So, my number 9, we finally get an album you had much lower down, and that is "Take a Look in the Mirror."
Okay, I don't know how this is this high for you, but go for it.
Well, I'm gonna say this now. For some reason, I just find myself drawn for Korn. I find myself very drawn to that initial run
Yeah,
of, um,
the original lineup of the band.
the original lineup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the weakest of that 6,
Hmm.
but it's still that 6. So I have a soft spot for it looking back because like I'm kind of coming at it retrospectively. Like I was 5 at the time,
Yeah.
I was watching fucking Sesame Street. Corn was something that appeared next to my veggies, you know. So me getting into metal was a few years off yet. That being said though, I mean it's a Korn doing a new metal album. It's not the best produced, but it's that lineup, and I like what that era was.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now, great new metal riffage going on.
Sorry,
Yeah,
this is right now.
yeah. Classic. Right now.
Right now,
Oh.
Jonathan Davis is scatting.
Do you ever stop and wonder like about people in bands? Like you're just going about your day to day, and you ever like make yourself a bowl of cereal and wonder if James Hetfield is on stage at this moment going, yeah. Like, like I've often wondered to myself, like, I wonder what this person is doing right now,
Yeah,
because
I norm
multiple
I normally don't,
hundreds
but
of
now I think I'm going to.
yeah, like, think to yourself, at some point, possibly while you were taking a shit, sleeping, making a toaster strudel, Jonathan Davis at some point has to have been going, "You're not," you know.
Or
Like,
on the flip side of it, I'm making a bowl of cereal and Jonathan Davis is taking a shit right at that particular time.
yeah. Perhaps Jonathan Davis was taking a shit while I was going. You're not.
Oh,
But
that seems oddly appropriate, but
Cornception. But yeah, break some off. Me likey, gnarly stuff. Counting on Me is more of that riffage. Here It Comes Again is a more melodic track. Deep Inside is a cool song. Did My Time. Angelina Jolie's hot as hell in that video, man. Jesus Christ. Like,
you're
damn.
talking you're talking to the wrong person. I never found her attractive in the slightest.
Really, yeah, but like, as someone who was like playing Tomb Raider as a kid, I was like, I can get behind this. Gradually, my taste grew for women of a curvier variety. However, I can't lie. That part where her and Jonathan are like yelling at each other in the video, I'm kind of like, yell at me. Yeah,
I'm sure we could arrange that.
yeah. Yeah, everything I've known is cool. Play Me featuring Nas. I liked it. Alive, Feel These bass tone is gnarly. I'm going to mention that a few times.
Mhm.
And it kind of divides opinion, but I personally think it's a crucial part of the Korn sound. Um, Let's Do This Now is some bouncy riffage. I'm Done is melodic and heavy. You'll Want a Single.
Say fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Fuck that. Boom, boom, boom.
That's a great song.
Dum, 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 dum. Yep. And When Will This End is a heavy ass closer. And, I'm very much in the same boat as you that I do think it is the weakest of that run. However, it does fall in line with that thing of when I think Korn, I
Yeah.
think that style of riffing and I think that approach. So I'm coming at it from what instinctively does it bring out of me in a physical way? Because Korn is very much a band that moves you, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So therefore, take a look in the mirror, manage to be in the bottom half, but quite far up it. So yeah,
All right. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
I
I
I am I am in agreement about the production though. To come off of Untouchables and then put out an album that sounds like this, I mean, it's night and day.
yeah.
But yeah.
Speaking of night and day, my number 9 is Untouchables from
Hey.
2002.
Ah,
Their fifth
okay.
album. So this is the first one where I almost feel like it's just Korn doing Korn already, but like I said, no one else can do Korn, so that's not really that big of a problem. But I do have to say that even on Untouchables, it's still clear they're trying to progress a little bit with some of the things and that they're doing and choices that they're making.
There's a lot more synth on it
Yeah,
at
what
points.
and but they're still pleasing the fans.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can tell that they're trying to top what they had done before. Like that's the thing. Even on an album like this, where I don't think it's necessarily better than the ones that came before it, sometimes you can hear the effort of a band. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so I would say that with Untouchables, it's very apparent the effort that was put in here, and the money. but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but the biggest thing for me with this one is Jonathan Davis pushing himself vocally. And
Yeah.
that's something that's always impressed me about him is that he really takes what he does seriously, and
Hmm.
you can hear it in not only the types of melodies that he writes, the range of what he's trying to do,
Yeah.
chances he takes in the things that he does in songs. And I've always
Wanna
really
see
liked
you
that.
try to take a swing at me?
Yeah,
Like he gets really up there.
yeah,
At me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I'm okay with when Jonathan Fun. That's how they say it in England.
Jonathan
Jonathan.
from Travis.
They say Jonathan. And but anyway, when he does like a falsetto, I absolutely love it. And that is a thing vocally
Yeah.
speaking. That is a thing vocally speaking that I am really tired of. Like
Yeah.
dudes singing in falsettos. I think Coldplay killed it. Yeah,
Like, sing with some grit for fuck's sake, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just got to the point where so many bands were doing, especially like in the early to mid 2000s, it was like every band was doing,
Still feels like that.
yeah. And I'm just like, don't no falsettos, just don't unless you're Jonathan Davis, that's fine,
Yeah.
or Tom York. I'll let Tom York get away with it, but he's very good at it. But anyway, all right. The second time I've mentioned Radiohead in a little bit. Somebody said something about me mentioning Radiohead and said, "Are you guys going to do Radiohead at some point?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we fucking should. We should do Radiohead at some point." What happened over there? Did you did you just discover that you were an android?
Yeah. I've gained self-awareness.
He's like,
Yeah. I'm fucking sorry. Sorry, I cut you off there with my shenanigans. I went to like scratch like a tiny little bit of grit out of my eye and ended up just like yeeting my fucking contact out of my eye. If this grosses
oh.
you out, look away right now.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna zoom in right on that.
There we go, it's back.
All right, cool. All right, we're all good. Where was I? Anyway, Untouchables, good album, some memorable songs, some same old, but it's evident that they're giving it 100% effort. It's too long, but a lot
Yeah.
of. I mean, they're a band of the too long era, so fuck. I mean, I don't know. And I
Yeah.
do like the addition of more electronic elements in this album. Also, I think Untouchables is the first time we hear acoustic guitars in a Korn song. At least that's in my memory, the first of their albums where
Yeah.
there's an acoustic guitar, and that's for a band like them, that was a big ass step right there. It's like, oh, okay, let's throw an acoustic guitar. And then, and you say that and you're expected to be like, we'll go up to the sound of pouring rain or something like that, but it's not. It's not. But there's definitely acoustic guitar in there. Anyway, a little bit of riff and vocal blur. That's why I'm saying it's Korn doing Korn, because some of it I'm all like, I feel like I've heard some of these riffs kind of done in a different way before.
Riff blur.
But still a really good album for me. So number 9 is Untouchables.
That album's a really satisfying listen to. That's one of those albums you can fucking crank.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
That I remember the first time I heard Here to Stay, and like I had my head blown off by just how fucking hard it comes in. That like dum 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 dum.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It did it again. But yeah, where were we? Number 8. My number 8 is
this is the last one of the episode, folks. We are not going to match up here. But well, what is your number 8?
My number 8 is The Serenity of Suffering.
All right.
Okay, so this to me is where modern Korn hits their stride. They had a bit of a false start with the paradigm shift, but The Serenity of Suffering is back in the zone. Insane is a crushing opener. Rotting in Vain. I know I keep mentioning a lot of video stuff on this episode, but the dude who plays Chibs from Sons of Anarchy is in the video for this song. So that's
which one's Chibs?
He's the Scottish guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I made it through about.
There's a lot of Scottish talk on this episode.
Yeah, I made it through 2 or 3 episodes of Sons of Anarchy, and I was just like, you mean I got to watch a whole show about people that I don't like? Because I'm like, there's nobody in this show that I think is a good person, and I'm not rooting for anybody. Fuck this show. So I just stopped watching it.
Fair enough. I watched the whole thing, but yeah, that was when I had time to invest myself in a series. Now I struggle to keep up with my crushing habit for listening to podcasts all the time and listening to music. God damn. I listen to everything at 3 times speed. we have
really hard lives, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I am a content creator, and I have it harder than you. No, is something lame people say. Okay, so yeah, Black is the Soul, big melodic chorus. The Hating, I can't not headbang so much of this album. A Different World. Oh, hi Corey. Corey Taylor is on this song. Take Me is a song by Kiss from
Put your hand in my pocket and grab onto my rocket.
Everything Falls Apart. Parts of this feel slightly genty. I did notice like a slight dalliance with like what was happening in metal music at the time, that kind of that genty sort of vibe.
Yeah.
But Korn aren't going to go into the prog zone. They're going to do really impressive stuff, but at their core they're 4 to the floor money riff.
Yeah.
Die Yet Another Night. I mean, there's so many good heavy riff moments on here, man. When You're Not There is more of a melodic one. Next in Line. I love drumming with quiet subtlety. So those snare rolls that are kind of subdued are yes from me.
Yeah.
One of my favorite drummers is Jeff Porcaro from Toto, just because that guy could sadly no longer with us, but basically anybody who's been in Toto is just fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Please Come For Me, heavy ass riffs, closer. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, now we're talking. We're in top tier Korn zone.
Yeah.
We're in the cornhole.
Why did it take this long for that to happen? Welcome to the cornhole, everybody.
Oh, Oh.
Um, let's wrap this up with my number 8. My number 8 is The Path of Totality from 2011.
Ah,
Their 10th
cool.
album, bringing on the trendy choice of having Skrillex and other dubstep peeps produce or mix or whatever, remix their music. That's the thing about this album that I don't know if this exists out there. If you're a big Korn fan, let me know because I would like to see it. I'm really interested in the process of this album being made
Mm,
because I'd like to know, like, not only like how were the instruments recorded, what did the basic tracks sound like prior to Skrillex or whoever else getting their hands on it and adding their flavor to it. Not that I think the album would need to be like that, but I'm just fascinated at
mm,
like, yeah, what did they present them with, or when did Skrillex come on board? At what point? And so
mm.
because it's for them, it's just a really interesting album of taking the Korn sound and merging it with this whole dubstep thing that was happening. To be completely honest, this is
Yes.
the only way I ever want to listen to dubstep is this album right here.
With
Because
Korn. Yeah.
or just merged with something else interesting. Because I think
Mm,
my big issue with not just dubstep but with EDM, electronic dance music in general, is that on its own it's so not interesting,
mm.
and people pay money to go live and watch a guy with a laptop top push a button, and I'm just like, I don't understand the appeal of that because even the music on its own doesn't have enough for me to sink my teeth into. I
Well,
like.
that's where the drugs come in.
Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really.
Like,
I'm more of a beer
yeah.
person. I guess, yeah, beer and EDM do not mix.
Yeah.
It's very aggravating.
Dum, 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 belch.
Yeah,
Bum, dum, dum, dum. Yeah.
but yeah, I
Oh.
really like. I really like that the band took the step to took the dubstep to make this album,
Hey.
because I think it feels like a marriage that was intended to happen at some point, and there's such a great energy to all of these tracks that to me makes up for the fact that there's not like the heavy rock sound, and
Yeah.
it's almost like it works perfectly with their sound. And I think, yeah, I really enjoy all of this album, but going through this and listening to it and trying to compare it to the other Korn stuff that I really like, and the songs that I like a lot from Korn and whatever, something became very clear to me. So I do think this is a fantastic album, but I think in the end it's an album that is together much better than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
the songs themselves, I'm like, these aren't amazing songs. And like I said, dubstep on its own is not amazing to me.
mm.
Um, but for some reason, these things together, and the way that it's done on this album, I'm just like, yeah, it's like taking songs that are just pretty good, and then these elements I think make them way better.
Yeah.
And I just think overall it's a really great album. But I do understand why some people wouldn't like this one, because it's not what you go to Korn for, and especially at the time in 2011, the minute that they announced they're working with Skrillex, I know like collectively the entire metal world rolled their eyes, because it's just and I did it too
I
at the
I
time.
remember it. I remember I remember reading Kerrang magazines at the time, and all of a sudden there was this sudden push where you would see Skrillex shows being reviewed and Skrillex albums being reviewed, and I was like, just because they did an album with Korn, right?
Well, didn't wasn't Skrillex originally a guy in rock bands?
He was in like a kind of post-hardcore type, kind of emo-ish band
Okay,
before he became Skrillex, and
yeah.
I think they were like a featured artist one week. So I can't remember the name of what they were called now, but yeah.
I mean, there's people make those shifts. Fucking Post Malone, I think, was like a guy in like emo or hardcore or some kind of band like that before he went and did the whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
I have a love hate
performance of Rooster they did.
Of who? Of
Post Malone. He did like a live cover of Rooster.
No, I haven't seen it. So I have a weird love-hate relationship with Post Malone because there's so many things he does that I think are awful, but he won my heart because he did that live stream where he did all the Nirvana songs and they sounded really good. And I was just like, well, good for him. But no, I never heard Rooster. Is it that good? Is it a good cover?
I can't remember if it was like an encore for that set or not.
I don't know.
I remember him doing like a cover of it, and it was really cool. It was just cool to see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he appeals to people who like certain music that I don't like. So it's like one of those things where I can't really comment on them because I'm like, it's not for me. So what the fuck do I know? But I do know that I've seen. Well, yeah, he seems cool, but at the same time, like I've seen and heard so many Nirvana covers over the years, and almost every single time I go, no, this doesn't need to fucking exist. But he managed to literally do a live performance. Yeah, exactly. But even ones even ones that are considered well done by other people, I'm still like, nope, they didn't fucking get it right. But for some reason he did. And I don't know how he did it, but I will always like him just because of that. That took us way far away from Korn. It went from Skrillex to Post Malone. But Korn lives in a world where I think everybody can get on board at some point. It's like the early, the Got the Life video. At the end of it, they have a huge party, and it's got apparently Eminem's there, and Fred Durst is there, and it's like I feel like Korn is that band that Korn throws a party and Snoop Dogg's coming and Skrillex is coming and they
broke boundaries, man. They really broke new ground.
But I really do think that they've proven themselves over time to not only
tear down this wall.
But I think they've proven themselves as a band that are not only legendary but also just like one of the best, just like as a heavy rock band. And I think they're one that like as a large amount of people agree. Like, Korn's great. And we're two of them. And we're only done with fucking half of their albums, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not in the full blown love zone yet. We're not deep in the cornhole.
No, we are not. We're not. We've stepped into the cornhole, but we haven't fully penetrated.
Just the tip.
So for next time, it will be full insertion. Just so you
to the base, right to the root.
Yeah, we're probably going to be filling all the holes in that episode. So hopefully you're here for it. Balls deep, as they say. We're going to be balls deep in Korn next.
In the front and the back bum.
The front bum, yeah. All right. On that note, how do you end any better than that? All right, that was our bottom 7 Korn albums, and next time you see us, we will be ranking the top 7 Korn albums. Thank you very much for being here, Peanut Butter Platypus. To those of you, our Scottish buddy, and all of our other buddies around the world. And I use the term buddy as in it's all inclusive. Ladies can be our buddies as well. Mm-hmm. Although I don't really get any comments from females, but if you're a female listener, drop us a line and let us know. I don't know how to end this one. This was fun, and I'm glad we're back doing this. So, do you have any parting words?
All
right, that was definitely a twist. All right, that was the last bad joke
breakdown.
All right, well that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. We'll be back next time.
That wasn't mean spirited, by the way. That was just an observation.
Yeah. We're done now. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. That's not how we end the show.
Later, my dude, and fucking like it. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
And that will be the end right there.
Yeah.